Okay, so I have this sustainer installed already. It's been about a month. We're kind of going to start by just showing off the installation post-install. I've been kind of getting back into playing my old red Kramer quite a lot lately. For those of you who don't know this guitar, it's a 1986 Kramer Focus 3000 made by ESP. Alder body, maple neck, 22 fret rosewood fretboard. I got this at the Auburn Guitar Shop in 1995. It's my first electric guitar. Still have it after all these years, still use it. I heavily modified it. I built this pickguard myself when I was 14 with a jigsaw and a pair of scissors to do the beveling. All the screws that mount it in are flush mount wood screws, beveled flat, so I wouldn't be knocking my knuckle on them when I play. The action is considerably low on this guitar. I mean, very low. For a while it was HSH. I had these, you'll see them in the video, but I had these EMG Select humbucker pickups in it, in the neck and bridge, and an EMG Select in the middle position. Now it's got a Duncan Performer active detonator humbucker in the bridge. This is like the budget version of the Invader. It's 17.5 kilo ohms resistance. I can run it in single or humbucker mode. And then this middle pickup's a Harmony 2183 single coil, and the neck is a Harmony, a Samick X13 single coil actually. Same as you'd find in any Hondo guitar really. These are the tall boy pickups. This one's actually 8K, so it merges with the humbucker really well. This one also sounds great. It gives it a little more of that studio twang. Original Floyd Rose locking tremolo. I've gone back to the Floyd as of 2016. Got EVHD tuna. Got my bar nice and stiffly installed because I don't like it waggling around. I sometimes like to do some fluttery stuff. This has a little bit of that flutter, but I need to work on the pivot posts a little more. Wiring I originally did when I was 17, though it's been through different iterations, including the newest one. You have a single volume knob here, single tone knob here, 500K, and then you have this, like the third switch on a Fender Jaguar. It's a strangle switch. And then down here, you have my pickup selector for the bridge pickup. Back is humbucker, forward is single coil. This middle one broke off within the last month, so I've got new ones on order, but it still works without it. This one right here is my neck position switch, which used to be for the humbucker. I'm going to take that out and put a two-way in. This bridge one, of course, is what we're going to be using. And then we're going to talk about that, a rhythm lead circuit type switch like a Jazzmaster, because I always wanted a Jaguar or Jazzmaster, and when I had this, I couldn't afford one, so I tried to kind of make a fake rhythm circuit by making it where when it slid this way, it puts a capacitor in the circuit that mellows it out, though it kind of overdid it just like I did the strangle switch, and it ended up being its own kind of interesting, unique thing. So that should give you an idea on the controls. Down here is our sustainer on-off. It's kind of in a nice little trigger position. So I can just kind of, when I've got the volume on and I'm soloing, I can just hit the switch and turn it on and, and then turn it off quickly. And then I have harmonic mode is up and fundamental mode is down for the sustainer. Let me explain a little bit how sustainer systems work. So this is the driver right beneath the neck position single coil. As you can see, it says sustainer on it on the lower right hand side. You'll see I made a custom mount to put this in here with two wood screws kind of through a piece of plastic. Old trick I've been using for years to fix humbuckers that had like the ears busted off and things like that. And so this right here, instead of working like a pickup and picking up sound, what it does is basically a electromagnet that induces vibrations into the strings and allows them to sustain by providing a bit of an energy assist sort of deal to them. Inside here, there's a little circuit board about as big as one of these Gibson speed knobs here that allows it to, that has a little trim pot on it that you can add the gain to. Some people just use a sustainer system, add a little bit of sustain to their guitar. I'm using it more with a different intent and purpose. My intent and purpose is to be able to do synthesizer sounds with this thing and be able to do things like hold square wave notes for extended periods of time, as we'll probably see during the demo part after this. So with these two switches here, what these two switches do, the bottom one here, the on off, when it's in the up position, it turns on a 9-volt battery that I have down here in the Strat cavity. This entire cavity is just jammed full now. I don't think I can add anything else to this guitar. Back here is off, up here is on. It cuts both the positive and negative leads to the battery. That's the way iSUSTAINER designed it. And it seems to work really well. It runs best with a fully charged 9-volt alkaline battery, something like a Duracell copper top or an Energizer. This upper switch, the harmonic and this harmonic and fundamental mode switch, how it works, it's basically the same thing as like if you played a Fender Mustang or, you know, Duosonic 2. You know, the pickups have like 2 switches up here for each pickup, and if you put them in certain positions, they're out of phase with each other. This does the exact same thing the switches on a Mustang or a Duosonic do. It basically reverses the phase of the inverter or of the driver, so then what ends up happening is the driver ends up vibrating the strings in a little bit of a different method. I can't explain the full science behind it. I'm still learning it myself. I decided to test this out. I bought this on Reverb for $70. And so far it's been a pretty pleasing piece of hardware. They make several different versions of this. There's a humbucker sized version that goes up here. I don't think that doubles as a pickup either. They've got versions that have push-pull pots on it, right here and right here. There are versions that come with the toggle switches. It looks like they're working on a 3-mode version of their own. It's their own original design. I actually like this design. It seems like it really grabs notes really well and it really sustains. So let's hear kind of the difference in sustain when I'm running this. So the first thing I kind of discovered with the sustainer that's kind of important to know is if you turn it on with the neck pickup, get to this switch right here. So if we turn it on with the neck pickup, and we're going to turn this down, that's what happens when your neck pickup is on. Whereas if I turn it on without it, it doesn't squeak. That's because this thing up here generates a magnetic current around the pickup, and that's causing a high frequency magnetic current around the pickup to squeal. So when you have an installation like this on a 3 pickup guitar with individual switches, you're either going to want to consider one of 2 things. You're going to want to consider, since this driver has to be wired, the sustainer system has to be wired into the bridge pickup, by the way. You're gonna have to consider you're gonna either have to keep in mind which pickups are on or off when you flick this switch, or I have an alternate wiring diagram I've worked out. I have a second guitar like this that's gonna get one of these. It's a Vester Concert Series. You probably see it's the one that used to have the punching glove graphic on it. And that one, I'm going to put a special set of double pull, double throw switches on it that turn the pickups off, or turns the sustainer off if I turn any one of the other pickups on. That way then you can have the neck and middle pickups on and not have to remember to turn the sustainer off to do it. Prevents mistakes. This is my prototype, so it's not gonna, I don't really care. I'm pretty careful, and most of the time I'm riding my bridge pickup anyway. So anyway, we're gonna kind of show you now what it sounds like. Another thing to keep in mind with sustainer systems is that typically, the stronger your bridge pickup is, the much more better the sustainer effect you're going to have. Because the sustainer is really just a driver, a phase switch, and an op amp that's connected to your bridge pickup, and it basically induces a feedback loop. At least that's how I understand it. So, having that kind of capability on one of these guitars is kind of crazy. So right now we're going to put it on the bridge pickup on. Let's put it in single mode versus humbucker. So So we're going to do this, and we're going to catch some sustained notes and kind of show you. So like in single mode, without it on, you see how the note dies out. If you flick it on, and it still might die out sometimes, because sometimes with a sustainer you might encounter dead spots in the neck where it doesn't sustain as much. I kind of found this to be the same deal. I first tried one of these out. I tried out a full-on $384 Sustainiac in a Schecter or Sinister Gates model, and it did that kind of thing. But also you can tell part of the problem is that we're in single mode. So we want to be in humbucker mode. That's usually the best mode for a sustainer like this. And then instead we go, you turn it on and you go up to your note and you go. And sometimes you can slide up. You can do that kind of stuff with it. Fundamental mode. This is in fundamental mode. If we flip it forward, we're in harmonic mode. What harmonic does is something more like when you hold your guitar up to your amp. Say let's turn this off. I hopefully have enough going. You feel like. That's me doing it with a sustain. And we're not at a very loud volume at all. We're playing through the Black Star ID Core 10 with it on, I think, like 4 so in my garage. So if we turn that on in harmonic mode, first off, see the difference in sound? So you see how when you do that in that particular sound, it blooms into another harmonic note off of the root note you play. That's the difference between harmonic and fundamental. There's some that have a mixed mode. Maybe we'll demo that if iSUSTAINER comes out with their mixed mode. I might try that out. I've got a few other guitars that are going to get one. This one I pretty much consider done, though I do need to replace the toggles on it. So mixed mode and all those other modes. So let's go put this back here. You see how I can kind of flick that with my finger? So it's pretty darn cool to be able to do that with this. And this is more of a practical demo, so I'm not going to do a lot of showy stuff. I might play around with it some, maybe later in another clip on my indoor sustainer kind of setup, show you some of the synth sounds. This could end up being a clip show, collection of clips, but this is, pretty much what I set it up for. Of course, I like it pretty well. It works clean too, just to kind of show you. So say we're on let's turn this volume back up. Let's put on a nice clean tone like that, and then flick it on in fundamental mode. You can kind of hear the distortion-ish kind of sound of the sustainer circuit in the background. Or you can put in So this should be a pretty good demonstration of what this actually does. Just to let you know, there are a few things, a few dead notes in some spots on the neck. Some of these have that. The Sinister Gates guitar had a few of those. It's just kind of a thing. Sometimes they're not really dead though. You can kind of lure the notes in, you know, say maybe you're in fundamental mode. Like if I press this note down here, you can hear it's kind of sustaining. I can sometimes use my whammy bar to jerk it up. You maybe want to tap a little more on the neck. Like you hear that there, and now it's coming out. Some notes get really strong, like this one. So you can do a lot of stuff with a sustainer. Part of the reason I added it to my arsenal was because of just the basic fact I do a lot of synthy stuff nowadays with guitar. You know, there's a lot of times you'll hear me, I don't sound like I'm playing a guitar, I'm playing a synthesizer. It's actually just a guitar, and I just wanted to expand the capabilities. The other reason this became the guinea pig first was because I wanted to use a guitar that I haven't been using very much, so that if it failed, I didn't like it. Instead, I found I've been using the Kramer a whole heck of a lot more lately on recordings and playing, and it's allowing me to kind of start finally dialing this one in a little bit. So yeah, this will be a pretty good demo of the basic capabilities of this. We might do another one later that kind of, or maybe even just after this if I decide to edit that in, if I have it, where we sustain notes on the sustain notes and do some synthesizer stuff with this. So anyway, yeah, let's move on with the video. I'm going to keep the installation part at the end to kind of show you my thought process while I go through. I'm going to explain a little bit of that. So when I install anything on an electric guitar, in a lot of cases, my weirder ideas like this, I usually mull it over for months at a time. Like I've been looking at this for about 8 months now, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, whether it was worth it, what could be done with it, how I could set it up to fit what I want it to do. And then it was like, okay, well, which guitar do I want to pick? So the first one that came to mind was this, my Music Master, right here. Because this guitar here, yeah, it's a Music Master. It's not a Mustang. It's a 71 Fender Music Master. My thoughts with this one was I would take the neck pickup out, and then I'd put the sustainer in here and do the whole doohickey, wire the switches up. But then I decided maybe I won't do that. You know, I kind of, you know, and I thought, well, I haven't been using my Kramer Focus 3000 very much for about like the last 10 years, so let's bring this one out of retirement and wire it up and do something cool with it and see what she's gonna do now, you know. And if I like it enough, I might reproduce it. I know that the Vester is one of the guitars I'm going to be selling, along with possibly another guitar similar to this, except it's a striker body with a Focus 6000 neck on it. That was completely demolished, that I've been slowly rebuilding over the years when I'm bored and have nothing better going on. Yeah. So right now the way I have it, 9-volt batteries down in here in the cavity. All I have to do is undo these 4 or 5 screws, pull that up, pull a battery out. It's just like my Jag Stang with EMGs in it. The other part of it is the board sits in here, and I have this little hole in the back to adjust the gain on the amplifier. And I'm going to try to make this a little more pretty and maybe try and beautify this a little more when I replace the switches. Probably also do that when I do a restring, but yeah. We're going to kind of show off some stuff on here, some different clips of, you know, immediately afterward. Some other tips for sustainers that I might go into. If you have a sustainer, they use up a little more battery power than your EMG pickups might. They typically run best with a brand new battery. I have a fresh 2023 Duracell in here that allows me to do that, you know. And it works pretty well. Yeah, as you can see, I already turned it on. We put it in fundamental mode. You can let it sit here and just, you know, tap the neck and notes will start sustaining like that. There you go. If I turn the amp off, you can I can feel it down here in the tail of the guitar. It's on and it's feeding back. Maybe you can hear it. Yeah, do you hear it? So that's another thing. If you're putting one of these in, you might want to consider putting a stereo jack in here so you can fully disconnect the battery. That way then if you do leave it on, as many of us absent-minded guitarists tend to do, you can make sure to turn it off afterward by just unplugging the jack. I didn't do that on this one because this is more of a studio guitar nowadays. I don't take this one out anymore if I were to go out, although it's been kind of iffy if I'll ever play out live again, just because of the basic fact that society has seemingly degraded to a point that I'm not particularly happy with it right now. So yeah, so hopefully that's a good demonstration. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and talk about some things here real quick. Got a lot going down at the shop today. Yeah. So we're at my workbench in the garage. Yes, this is a bunch of random guitar shit over here that I'm working on. We'll see where that goes later. Anyway, yeah, I got this box from Indonesia. I think I'm only maybe the second or third guy on YouTube to probably even talk about this device. So, one thing we need to get back to guitar content on this channel. And one of the things I've never actually talked about en masse is basically sustainer systems, you know? What I mean by sustainer system is, I mean things like, you know, the Sustainiac, the EBO, the, you know, all these little infinite sustain devices that got kind of popular in the 80s. So the company that I got this from is iSUSTAINER Guitar Industries. Yeah, I don't know how to get my finger to do the right thing. There we go. iSUSTAINER Guitar Industries. Right there. Or Infinity Guitar Industries. This is their sustainer. Infinium, it's called like the TB-60, and it's basically a sustainer system designed for solid body electric guitar. So we're going to open this. It's just like your regular Sustainiac type instrument, you know, the Sustainiac, Fernandez sustainer, that kind of thing. And this is kind of the thing that I've been wanting to put on one of my guitars for a long time. Problem is these parts are always so bloody expensive. You know, they cost about $200, $300, $400 in most cases, but this Indonesian company, actually there's two, there's them and then there's a Vayas. This one is the less expensive of the two and the one I don't think a lot of people are using. So this is the installation guide. We're going to be putting this in a guitar that has a neck humbucker slot. So I'm doing the Steve Vai mod on it. I've got two pickups right here. We have a Washburn MG45 single coil here. And we have a Chinese single coil Alnico V right here. And if we look at this, it comes with the instruction sheet here. Yeah. So, as we can see, I bought the one with the two toggle boards in it. This is going in my Kramer, which has a lot of switches on it. And I'd rather have a less intrusive installation than what I was originally doing. You see, they make a version of this that comes with two push-pull pots. And those push-pull pots are what allow you to, you know, turn a sustainer on and off by pulling a knob. This one has two toggles. And we have a very specific guitar that I'm installing this in, and I'm doing a Steve Vai style setup on it. What I mean by that is this is going to be installed a lot like how Steve Vai's flow guitars have it installed. basically with the Sustainiac system, and I've been kind of working on designing my own specific system that works completely differently from theirs. We can see I have a driver already built for it right here. My drivers are a little higher impedance, so I'm going to be trying that out on a different guitar. But this is the system. There's the manual. We also have an intensity trim pot on here. And here's what comes with it. You've got the Sustainer driver here. And then you've got this package that includes 2 toggle switches, a 9-volt battery, and the springs and screws for the thing, for the Sustainer. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to install these components alongside of a neck pickup. Now, I've got 2 guitar candidates for this that we were going to do, but I'm going to take a look at a few things about it before we actually decide for sure. Because I've been thinking about mainly my red Kramer. Basically my first electric guitar. And this depends on a few things because I'm also taking this video because there's not a lot of detail on the website whether this has a pickup or not in it. So the red Kramer here, this is my first electric guitar. This is my Focus 3000 ESP made Japanese Focus guitar. And as we can see here, I've heavily modified this one. She's got 1 volume, 1 tone, strangle switch, bridge position switch. Back here's humbucker, that single coil. This is on off for the middle pickup, and this is on off and humbucker and single for the neck pickup. So we have a EMG Select SES in the neck. We have a EMG Select SCS in the middle. This is actually SEHG. That's a humbucker. And then we have a Duncan detonator, Duncan Performer detonator. This is like the lower end version of the Invader and the bridge. And then I have this kill switch. Let's get the light off of it a little bit so you can see controls better. And then I have this kill switch like I had installed in high school on it that does the Tom Morello thing. But that's kind of redundant because I already can do that with the toggle switches on the guitar for each pickup if I really wanted to. And I have a toggle, that's the strangle switch, and this is the faux rhythm circuit switch. So what I was almost thinking was when I do this, I might actually put one of the Sustainer switches right here for turning the Sustainer on and off, because I always grab my volume knob on my Strats like that behind it, turn it up and roll it down. And I have Gibson speed knobs on here. So the way this would work is I'd have 1 toggle switch here and maybe a 2nd toggle switch here for the Sustainer. We could probably wire the whole circuit and put it in the guitar. That's idea number 1 that I've been thinking about. The other idea I had was this one. This one needs some nut work done too. This is my 1971 Fender Music Master done up like a Cobain Mustang. Thing is, I don't think the biggest determining factor on this is that the neck pickup on the guitar or on the Sustainer is not a pickup. It's just a sustain circuit thing. And that's something else we need to talk about with these Sustainer systems and the drivers and whatnot. So most drivers measure about 8K ohms. My driver is measure about 8 ohms. This is about 20 ohms. This is one of my own homemade driver that I'm using. This is going to probably go in the Guitari 2600 guitar that I'm building that has a synthesizer in it. So let's take a look at some ohms readings here on some of these pickups that I'm planning to use. This is going to be middle position. This is going to be neck. So let's take a look at them and the ohms readings for each one and where they're going to be. So this neck position pickup, what we have to do is we have to separate the ground lead from the other lead on here. So And the ground lead on these is this little cage, so we'll put it on a 20k ohm scale. And then we put this on the end, and this one here. This one measures about 8.42k ohms. 8.41 or 8.42. Nice. So this is an 8 ohm pickup. We may put this in the bridge position of my Van Halen style Strat if that's the case. If we look at this guy here, this is the Washburn MG45 single coil. This is about 5.21, 5.20, and that could go in the, you know, we could put this in the neck and put this in the middle actually, because then we put those two together. Now, let's take a look at how tall these pickups are, because another part of it, right here we have Infinium Sustainer Industries Sustainer driver here. A nice little Ziploc bag. And this is going kind of side by side here. So we've got these 4 leads here that go in there, and we can test them on the bottom here. So if we put them on this bottom side and we test them, the scale's too high, so we're going to put it on a 200 ohm scale. $2,000 ohm scale, 20k. All right. So just sort of testing them out. Shit. Anyway, I gotta pause. Hello? No, I'm down here doing video of the sustainer system.
Well, I need you to make something different. I don't have those.
Discrepancies about lunch. That's how that works. Anyway, let's turn this off to save battery. So you got this here. This is the driver. See, there's like a center thing on it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to measure the ohms reading, probably between there. Is there like a 2,000 ohms reading here? What the heck is going on? Uh, 20k? We're not getting any sort of a reading off of this. That's kind of the weird part. 2,000? 2,000 possibly? Huh. Anyway, these are not measured in the same rating as the others, but I'm going to give you an idea how we're going to install this. So if we go with the Kramer, it's going to go side by side like this with the pickup. And then it's going to sit in the neck position. And what we're going to do is we're going to probably take 2 of these plastic bits here, which are exactly the right size. And we're going to cut them, screw the pickups to them with wood screws, and then drill a hole in the middle. And I'm going to use a second set of plastic/wood screws to pull them up through the middle to make it adjustable. So that'll be kind of my idea. I was thinking I'm going to make it that way also, so then we can experiment, because I'm going to try putting this in the regular neck position slot up towards the front. Typically you want these as close to the middle of the strings as possible to use up the least energy for efficiency. But if we move it back here more towards the bridge, then I have more traditional neck pickup tone when I'm using the neck pickup. So we're going to put that there. We've got these 2 things to work with here for making my little earpieces. And this is going to go back in its little plastic thing right now because I don't know how many ohms it is or anything, and I want to go over the directions before I do the installation. Now we're going to scoot this back and we're going to look at the installation guide just a little bit more. So, looking at this, this is generally designed for an HH guitar. And that's generally the idea that they have here, is that you're going to remove your neck pickup and put that in. I'm more like, I have more of a setup, more like some mid-80s Jacksons. I actually took the design from Paul Dean's Kramer guitar back when I was a teenager. Because I saw the Paul Dean Kramers, they have individual toggle switches for each pickup, and I was like, oh, cool. So he's able to have all like 21 combinations or whatever it is. So, except mine's HSH. Anyway, we're gonna look in here. We have a neck sustainer driver, and we have a bridge pickup. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to look at how these switches work. So we have a sustainer driver right here, and then we have the red and green sustainer driver right over there. So that's how that's going to work. Neck pickup pin empty. So yeah, the way we're going to do it is we're going to wire it in where my bridge pickup hot input goes on the bridge pickup switch, so it's only in line if the bridge pickup is on. And it might be kind of fun because there is a small slight chance my middle pickup might work with it. But we're gonna, yeah, so the way we're gonna do it, this Harmony pickup that's about 8K, this is going in the middle, which actually in a way is giving me a more balanced pickup setup than I originally had, because my pickup setup on that guitar is, you know, I've got like a 17.5 kilo ohm pickup in the back, but then I have a, you know, freaking, I have a freaking 6.4K single coil in the neck and an 8.4 humbucker in the neck position that can run as a 6.4K Strat pickup. Those pickups are going to go in another Music Master build that I have over here, so we're kind of going over the diagram. The way this works is the sustainer driver, the beginning and end are all kind of wired in series onto this toggle switch, and then those are sent over to the two trim pot sustainer pots on here. Then we have the actual sustainer trim pot thing here that I'm going to kind of mesh with. And we have a 9-volt battery. I'm just sort of planning it all out, you know, in my head before I do this. Anytime I do a guitar mod like this, I spend a lot of time mulling it over. I've kind of been doing this for weeks already. But I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put these together on a pair of mounts here. They're made out of plastic. So for me to do that, I'm going to go ahead and pause real quick, and I'm going to use my Gerber to do that. So we got my Gerber flick right here. I've used this on so many different things, it's not even funny. We're just going to kind of cut this piece, I think, in half might actually be enough. Because then I can kind of let the ears of it sit on there. Because that's sort of the whole point, is this is going to be a coupling device for the pickups. For the sustainer and the pickup that's going in the neck position. And I'm going to use these magnets on the bottom as a guide for how wide it should be. So you may have to widen the pickup cavity. That's just going to be a thing. Alright. I also don't mind if it's a little flexible, because, you know, if it's a little flexible, I can kind of file it down like that.
There we go. We got kind of cut in the middle and loosened up. There we go. Take this and kind of file it on the corners. Like that. And I'm thinking what we're going to do here is we're going to make these flush. So I'm going to take our Sustainiac pickup, or sustainer driver here. And I'm thinking what we're going to do here with this is we're going to put these side by side like this. So it's going to be like that. And then what we're going to do is when we put these side by side, these are going to, these little clear pieces are going to go here and here. But what I'm thinking I might do is I might cut a little indice right there on it so it'll, you know, fit around the pickups. And then I don't have to have, you know, a big honking square cavity in there. This is how I do all this stuff. I don't think I've ever actually shown myself doing actual mods to my guitars. And I do the cheap way like this on my own stuff because my own stuff is kind of like, it's my own. So it's not like anybody's going to really have a fit if it's done kind of weird. Yeah, so now we're going to kind of square that off. Right here. And then that end's going to get kind of cut off there. Because the whole idea here is we're creating sort of a little mount for our pickups. There we go. There's one right there. It's going to go in there. And then we're going to create a second one here. Just the same, just like that. And this is just kind of how I do it without even measuring. And it turns out great. Yeah, these are just little dividers from a little electronic box that I use for parts for pedals and things like that. And I know the switch for the neck position is actually a 2-position for that EMG Select humbucker, but, you know, we're going to kind of do that. So here we go. We're kind of getting there. We're going to have to cut this one a little bit wider, I think, because of the whole, you know, we've got this whole area here where it kind of needs to be cut into a little more. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last time with it. Eventually I want to make an aluminum set of these for this exact purpose. So here we go. We're kind of piecing it together here. So here's how kind of where our mounts are going to go. I do need to cut a slot in this one for the wire that's coming out of the other pickup. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. Just so you know, I'm eyeballing it because I'm actually really good at eyeballing stuff like that. So let's see here. We got that right there. That's absolutely perfect. And then we'll just kind of screw those in. I'm going to start with doing these two like that. That way then we can, you know, get the right diameter drill bit going and I can screw the pickup in with those on the bottom. For screws, we're just going to use 2 really, really small kind of wood screws like these guys down here. That way then it's not taking up a whole lot, like these guys down here. That way then it's not taking up a whole lot of room and it's not going to mess up threads too much. So now here's what we do. And this is the reason why I like working with this clear stuff. It's because then we're going to just take that, we're going to mark it right there. So that spot right there makes it really easy. And then this side, we're gonna just mark it right here. And then we're gonna just drill our holes through it. The whole idea here is to make a fully adjustable. I need to take my car keys out of my pocket. Keep hitting them. Okay. So here we go. This is kind of how I'm doing this. So we're gonna put these here, in there, right about there. So that should drill right through. There we are. And then we'll do the same on this side. There you go. You might get onto me for not clamping it, but you know, whatever. Anyway, so now I'm going to take those, I'm going to clean up their edges using a knife. And then we're going to kind of do that way. That way then they sit flush with the pickup bobbins. We're not even going to open the guitar just yet until we have our full mountable thing. I'm actually thinking we're going to use the original screws from this driver over here to install the pickups. So now we'll take two of these little screws here and we'll put them in there. And then somewhere around here I have my smaller screwdriver. What we're going to do, this one's the one without the notch, so this goes on this side right here. As we can see, we're just going to screw it in like that. And that should hold in place, but that doesn't seem like it because it's not big enough. I'm probably going to use the smaller screws on the Sustainiac so it doesn't harm it. So we'll use two of these larger screws for the wider diameter screws for the actual Sustainer. Here's how these will work, or for the actual pickup. So here's how these are going to work. We're going to take one here, screw it in. You want to waller out the hole a bit so it'll actually fit. I don't use my neck pickup on this guitar that much, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I might even have one setup where it's going to tap it into that faux rhythm circuit thing on the neck position. Because I do that a lot with my stuff, is I put like additional shortcuts in now for my pickup switching, so then it actually allows me to get the tones I want a lot quicker without a whole lot. So there we are. As we can see, the plate is also flush with the magnet, so then it'll fit all the way down to the furthest down it's going to fit. May have some routing, but very unlikely. So anyway, we're going to do this now, and we're going to screw that in. So this is a lot like how, you know, Steve Vai's stuff is installed, I believe. So we built ourselves two little edges here, and then put them there. And now there you see our wire is coming up through that gap, and it'll just be able to route down like that, or like this actually. Now we get to the complicated part, which is getting the sustainer mounted. This part's going to go in like this. And as we can see here, we've got two lobes there. So we're going to kind of scoot in and do those. And then I'm going to actually use the mounting tabs for the and then we're going to just drill those out real quick. these, we'll use the smaller screws on because the sustainer has smaller holes and I don't want to damage them if possible. Granted, I like these pickups where they mount by plastic because it makes it much easier to mount them. So here we go. We'll put those in. And then these should just mount it right there to the plastic, like that. Now let's see how wide those are. Those are pretty damn close. Let's see here. Now we got to get that under there. Oh, this is PCB, so this will be really easy to work with. So we just screw them in like that until it's level, and it's working beautifully, by the way. So we're going to screw these in until they're level with the pickup. So right now we got it a little bit cockeyed, but we're going to straighten that out. And then here we go. Elegance is the best policy. Here we are. And there we go, we're almost level. You know, we got a ways to go here. It's almost the same depth. There we are. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna straighten them. And there we go. And there's our Sustainiac / humbucker mount / single coil mount combo. So now what we'll do is we'll take each side here and we will drill a hole in it that'll allow it to be mounted like a regular humbucker. So we gotta get it probably a little closer in. So we got one on one side, and I don't mind if they're a little cockeyed, you know, honestly, just as long as the pickup goes through. This is my Kramer. I mean, this is a project guitar, so we're gonna do that. There we go. We've got our fully mounted sustainer and pickup in its mounts right here. I know it's not the most elegantly done job on it, but it looks absolutely perfect. If we really want to get it absolutely tight, we can go ahead and wrap some tape around this to hold it together. That is tempting, but you know, now we have the driver and we have the pickup in the same thing right there. Shouldn't have much more woodworking or cutting or anything else to do here. I'm gonna put all this back together. So now we have a dual pickup / driver that we did. And then this, of course, is going to go in the middle position, so we're going to just put screws in it. And I have 2 springs to go in place as well. And this one will just be, you know, simple. This one's just going to be go in the middle. So we're just going to screw it in. Yeah. And all of these pickups, by the way, I've wax potted, so they're not going to scream or be microphonic. A lot of people like to talk a blue streak about inexpensive pickups and whine and complain about them because it's cheap, it's cheap. Yeah, but a pickup's a pickup. I actually like these high output ceramic single coils quite a bit. Anyway, we're gonna pause for a brief second because I gotta check a text message. Been talking to my sister. Anyway, we're gonna get back to this. We're gonna take this pick guard off. This guitar really has like probably one of the most heavy-handed installed pick guard setups I've ever freaking seen. I mean, I pretty much have this thing nailed on here with these recessed screws. This is originally what it had back in the 90s when I first built this pick guard. This was my first pick guard I ever made. Made it when I was 17 back in high school around 1998. It's a it was made using StewMac parts. So it's StewMac Guitar Shop Supply 3-ply black, white, black. It's had many different pickup configs. I think like the original Shaler humbucker went out, so I had a Floyd Rose sustainer back there for a while. Kind of funny because it wasn't used to sustain anything. The shop tech at the Auburn Guitar Shop wired it up, where the inner coils used for the sustain mechanism were just additional coils in the humbucker. And it was almost as insanely high output as this detonator humbucker is. So, yeah. And me, I'm just using my Gerber. I mean, she's got dents, she's got scratches. We may do some fix it up on some of this damage back here, because this thing had a Kaler on it for a while. It's had a Floyd Rose, it's had a Kaler, but it's back to Floyd Rose now, and I consider it permanent. I'm not gonna mod it anymore after that. It's regarding, you know, vibrato systems. I'm just gonna keep it with the Floyd Rose. You know, it's a Kramer. It's almost sacrilege not to have a Floyd on it. I mean, these were the de facto guitars of the 80s. Everybody in the 80s had one. Billy Squier, Paul Dean, of course, Eddie Van Halen. He was the whole reason everybody moved to these. Gene Simmons was using Kramer before Eddie. He had the Axe basses. Those were Kramers. These Focuses, though, these were actually made in Japan by ESP. So this has technically also got some Metallica lineage to it too, because of the whole ESP connection. As for the fate of the pickups that are already in it, I'm putting those in a Duosonic hot rod style build that I'm going to do soon. I've got the bodies already made. It's up over here. It's going to use my old Music Master's old hardtail bridge. And basically, it's just a guitar made out of reclaimed pallet wood. So there's going to be some of that going on in the future. This one is my old red Kramer, though. And this guitar is like sentimental because it's old. It's also, I got it for Christmas in '95, so I've had this guitar almost, 30 years. It was 10 years old when I got it. We believe it to be an 85 because it's got the really odd headstock on it that Kramer used for the Focus series back around like 85, 86, something like that. All right, there was this short period where they were using a really odd sort of headstock that looked like the Kramer banana headstock, but it was really thin. And I've always been kind of intrigued by that on this particular guitar, because you see a lot of Focuses with that, but it doesn't seem like it wasn't a headstock Kramer normally used. So I'll take this out. Normally I take the whole Floyd off when I do this too. That's the really crazy part, but I'm not doing that this time. We're going to see if we can do it the old way I used to do it back in high school, which was without removing the Floyd Rose from the body. This screw is just going to have to... Some of these are just held into the freaking plastic. I mean, come on. I couldn't get enough chrome on this out of this thing. I mean, it looks like a flippin' 57 Chevy. So... I'm going to pop that out. There we go. And we just got to kind of work the scratch plate. It's got to snap out from underneath that thing there. We might have to loosen some strings, though. That is an unfortunate fact of life with these guitars. But luckily for me, we don't need to look very far, because I cut my nut slots with a flathead screwdriver hold, so I didn't need the hex wrench. Back in the freaking 90s, I remember going to multiple stores looking for the dang hex wrench for these things. You know, it was just like, ah. Anyway, I gotta pause again. This is like another pause the video situation. God damn it. Gotta love how I'm getting calls. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it on here because that's what Bithead 1000 does. Hello?
I ordered you something that's $18.
What?
Korean barbecue short ribs.
Okay.
And it was $18. So,
Okay.
is that now?
Yeah, that's plenty good.
It'll be ready at 3ish, so I'll go in like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Can you put away the groceries or do the dishes while I'm gone?
I'll probably do that in a little bit here. I'm doing video shots of me installing the sustainer system.
Okay. I'm gonna buy a soda too on the way. Do you want a soda?
Yeah.
I need it for them. They have a lot to do today.
Yeah, and I'm... Okay. Yeah, so this is the director's cut, I guess. Anyway. So now we got to get this out from under here. Once we got that, this is what it takes. This is why I don't go into this guitar that much anymore. It's because it's just so tricky to get everything around these this bridge pickup and get all the wiring through it and everything else. It's just really tricky to get all this out. We're trying to be as gentle as we can. You can see I'm lifting the strings up to get them around those aluminum oxide pole pieces. So here we go. And here's the inside of the Kramer's wiring, as we can see here. We've got two fairly fresh 500K pots here and there. I'm probably going to be... So what I'm going to need to do now is take these two pickups out. And then we can put my other pickup mounts in. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take these guys out first. I'm going to switch to my Phillips head here. I think we'll have enough room for the sustainer up here. I mean, I just might have to chop these corners off here and there, but it looks like we might have enough. So I'm going to take the neck pickup out first. This neck pickup was actually the bridge pickup for a while on this guitar, and the neck pickup was one that I have that doesn't have arms on it. So we'll just set those there, and then we'll just set this here. Yeah, I mean, I might already have had this thing in the guitar a few months by the time you actually see this, because my video editing can take me sometimes months to get around to. So we're gonna undo the screws, There we go. For the other pickup. Don't even think the other pickup has springs in it. Weird. But I tend to try and be eco-friendly here. We don't scrap anything in my shop. We reuse it on other guitars. If there's a pickup that needs replaced or something else, then it gets, swapped in. So here we go. Now I'm going to undo these tapings that I so lovingly did only about a year ago. I like to tape my pickups together so they all look neat. It just makes wiring in this thing just so much more easier to deal with. I mean, this snake's nest over here, this is going to be tricky enough to try and fit another switch in there, so we're going to try some stuff really quickly here. So right now I'm going to undo all this tape. And then, so yeah, you can kind of tell it was a pick guard I made back in high school based upon all this stuff. There's a little metal filing got in my finger. There it goes. Comes right out. Anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna peek around here, see if I have anything else I can use. Maybe to cut some of these. Some of these are fraying apart, which is perfectly fine. I mean, this is electrical tape, you know. Kramer. I do this because, yeah, I like my wiring to look neat. So the next time I go in, have to do something like this, it's really easy. Like, you know, it's no shame in pulling your wires like that, especially if you're taking two of them out. The only pickup in here that's staying is this bridge humbucker. Everything else is going out because it's going in another build. Since I got the garage, I'm going to try to get as many projects done before I turn, you know, like 40, 50. That's kind of my attitude to all this stuff. So now we got both pickups out. I'm going to take this right here. These two are going to be desoldered now. The EMG Selects. They've served me well, but I've had them since high school, and honestly, I just don't need to be using EMG Select pickups in my stuff anymore. So, I'm going to grab these pliers here. And I'm going to try to tactfully desolder both of these. My vision isn't quite what it used to be. Anyway, we're going to take this. If I can get my strain relief out of here. Here we go. Yeah, watch me clumsily fumble around. I'm sure people are going to be leaving some nasty comments about this one. Anyway, let's just sit there. You got to heat the piece, and there we go. We got that wire out. Now we just got to pull the other part of it out. Actually, we're going to undo all the ones from the pickup selector switches first, just so then I can get at them. This one we're going to desolder, and then that one we're going to desolder. There we go. And then under here, I'm going to take this wire, and then we might just wire cutter the braided sections off, because I got a lot of life left in those pickups, honestly. They haven't been swapped that much. So what I might do here is pull this back, and we'll just use scissors to kind of trim those grounds off carefully while I'm working. I know it's hard to see what I'm doing here, but you know, on camera, but that's what I do with this stuff. As I work in there. This is the kind of surgery this guitar requires because of the complexity of the electronics. Alright, so we're gonna trim that off of there, and now our neck humbucker is out. So we're gonna set that aside, and now our bridge pickup, or middle pickup, needs to come out, and that already came out. So there we go. So now you got the neck and middle pickups out. Now we're gonna mount our other parts in here. So you can see we have my bridge humbucker already in place. So now we're going to first start with the middle pickup right here. I'm gonna go get my springs for it. This is gonna go back in with a pair of springs holding it in place, and I have those in one of my boxes in my electronics box. That's capacitors. So it's really hard for me to get a good angle on what I'm doing here, but I'm going to grab these two springs here for bridge saddle that I have, because I keep those as pickup springs, and sometimes I use them interchangeably because sometimes they're exactly the same. So here we go. We got 2 springs here, and we're going to pop them in the guitar. We're going to put this pickup in right now. All right. This pickup needs to go down here. So we'll probably just put it in like that. Here we go. There we are. And we'll just stick that in there like that. So we'll put that screw through that side there with the spring. And then that'll just screw in like that. Which I think honestly these pickups also will look better with this guitar, honestly. Yeah, there we go. We got a nice 8K single coil going in the middle position. And I usually do it with the wider part towards the top, towards the pick guard, because there's just more surface area there. And then we just stick that over that, and then we just screw that in, and that should hold it in place fairly well. And then hold that there, and that there. And there we are. We got our middle position pickup installed. But anyway, then I'm going to go ahead and probably trim this, because this needs some proper... I'm using wire strippers nowadays. I didn't used to do that in the olden days. I used to just use my teeth. And that gives us a little extra red wire anyway for that. I need to get a little more of this braided wire free is what I need to do. So we'll do that, and then we just got to keep trying. And it's gonna come out at some point. There we go. So now you have our braided wire and our white wire together. And now I'm almost thinking this might be awesome, because we might be able to switch our pickup switches around. Let's see here. These almost look like they might be dual mode. I don't know, but we'll see. Anyway, we're gonna take that braid. We're gonna kind of... I always have to look at this up close, because you don't want the little braided bits of wire here to short out. And then I'm going to test my impedances on both sides of the pickup using my voltometer here. What this is going to do is this is going to allow me to test the pickup leads right here. So we're going to put it on a 20K scale, and then we're going to use my mouth on that one. Hey, God gave you the tools, you know, use them. Alright, so this is 8. And this doesn't connect to anything. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just strip this white wire, and we're going to just kind of put it together with the other one. Sometimes I can do this like this with my hand, like that. And then we tin the tip. And then we tin the tips of the wires here. I need one of those hand soldering stations, but we'll just use the bottom of the pick guard thing here to hold it in place. Then I grab some 6040 Rosencore lead solder here, and we just sort of solder them up. And the way I solder these, typically I like to work up close because I just like to be able to see what I'm doing perfectly. Because you want to tin your wire properly, you know. Yes, right now it's starting to wick up that solder finally. I'm gonna do that to the other side here, the ground lead. Now we're gonna run this through here. I can just kind of solder that lead onto there. So we have that. There we go. And then I'll just kind of, since there's already solder on it, I'll just solder it to the lug like that. So we'll just put it in there. Okay, so now hot lead's wound, and this lead is now there, so we're gonna solder it to the pot casing right here using this ground wire. So we'll do that. I always like to get the solder bead just as close as I can to the actual pot casing. There we go. Got it. It's in place now. So now our middle position pickup is in. You know, we probably should have, and then that just totally came off. You want to typically stay where the solder blobs are, because typically that's where it's going to adhere to your soldering job the best. You also want to make sure you warm it up enough too. I mean, shoot. Sometimes having that bigger lead next to it might help, like that.
The house needs to, kitchen needs to be, all the, you can put away, usually not.
Yeah, I'll
20
probably,
minutes?
let me just see how this is gonna look real quick. So here's how that is going to look when it goes in the guitar, with the single coil up towards the top, and then we'll just route the wires down. Right now I got to do some chores, so I'm going to get a mouse, pause this, and then Finish my recording. You know, getting these kinds of things done is just, tricky. Anyway, I am going to go into one of my bins of screws now, of multiple screws, and we're going to see if there's anything in here that we can use for screwing this in. That's like thin and decent, and will fit through the holes. 'Cause that's the next piece of this, is getting the Sustainiac assembly mounted in such a way that the screws go through the holes for this. Okay, that's not going to work. So we want a very thin screw. I'm going to take a look in the package and see if maybe the mount screws for the one of these will work. If not, we may have to drill. I'm going to kind of take a look at another. I'm going to pause here for a minute. After some lunch, I got it installed in here, as we can see. So let's take a look at what it looks like now. There we are. Got our Sustainiac, we got 2 single coils, we got whole 9 yards here on this guitar. It actually looks really cool. It looks kind of like it did when it was stock, but with like a additional fit here. I play with 8, so I think that should be enough to vibrate it. If it does prove to be a problem, it's not going to be that hard for me to undo the screws and springs under here and switch it. But I really don't think that's going to be a problem, because this is roughly where the top coil of a 24 fret guitar would be. And the whole idea here is I'm going to return my Kramer kind of to her old standard stuff and then do this. So now, before we install the sustainer, I'm going to just run this wire down through the center here. And then, yeah, this is going to be a little trickier. What I'm going to do here instead is I'm going to add another set of wires to this. And then we're going to wrap those in electrical tape, and then we're going to kind of cook the connections in for the rest of this down here. It's really hard for me to really get a good enough quality camera for this, but I know that I'm not really giving you much of a visual, but you at least get the idea of how I'm going about this. Also, this looks really cool here. And heaven knows, maybe additional magnetism will help boost the coil. So here we go. You know what? I might actually pause this, and we're gonna remove the bridge, because this is gonna be where I gotta figure out my routing and drilling and all that stuff. Okay, so next thing is I gotta add some extensions to the leads for the neck pickup, and the reason why. So I'm gonna use green for the ground and yellow, this yellow copper coil, solid wire for the hot. It just makes it easier for both of them. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean off our iron. And we're gonna start soldering stuff with that. go. Now that we have that end, I'm going to wrap this end here. Actually, how I'm going to do it is I'm going to use a little bit of this red tape here to wrap this ground around like that. And then what I'm going to do is take some of this yellow stuff, and then I'm going to kind of solder it on the same way. Go. And I usually bend the connections and then I kind of wrap them up in tape. I'm going to reuse some of this tape that I was using before. Now what's really nice about this is that I'm saving on tape. Like I said, I don't waste anything in my shop. I pretty much use everything somehow. Anyway, now we're gonna take these and measure these lengths out. Probably to about here I think should be reasonable enough. Maybe a little bit extra. And then we're gonna cut them just at the right length. I'm gonna kind of do these like a modernized version of the cloth wire found in vintage guitars. This one, because of how well, even if hackishly shielded it is, has always been kind of quiet anyway. And then we're gonna kind of twist them around each other. As you can see here, I always do this just because I like my wiring to be neat. And then I know that's a three-way switch up there. We'll eventually switch that. But for right now, I'm just gonna leave it as is. Since this is a guitar I'm building for me and not for somebody else. And then we'll just take all this. Now we got to get this wire out. And this is the Sustainiac wire, which is right here. We got 5 leads going from it. And so now I'm going to take that and this, and these are all going to get routed straight down like that, including that one. So these are all going to get routed already. And then I'm going to kind of cinch them in with tape like that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two up here, and then I'm going to kind of tape them off just sort of lightly. And there we go. That's how I always do all my wiring in this thing. That's also even one of kind of the secrets of the Kramer in general, is its wiring had to be neat like this, because it's the only way I was going to be able to do this much, especially when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old and first starting in guitar modding. So you can see now the wiring harness is coming together. It looks pretty tidy. I keep a little extra here so I can do extra with it. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the neck pickup wire in here. And to do that, I'm going to take all these together And then this is going to kind of get, this is going to get sent back down like that, but we're going to kind of feed all our wires out this way. We're going to kind of feed all our wires out this way. Like that. And then I'm going to kind of take that. I'm going to use the Sustainiac wire as a guide for the rest of it, because this is going to all go down here just fine. And then we're going to kind of tape that down like this. I'm going to use a little chunk of tape there. I'm reusing the tape because there's just, you know, this is just a good way to save. And also it's still good tape. It's still got very good stickiness to it. So here we go. We got all that. This will later get folded over like that, and I'll probably just zip tie it right there. If you want to see that, I'll probably just zip tie it. This will probably get folded over like that, and I'll just zip tie it. So anyway, so right now, I'll have to make adjustments varyingly over time. But anyway, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pickups, I'm going to kind of wire this guy in, and then we're going to focus on the next part. Do that. Now we're gonna have to make some decisions on some stuff. So right here is the kit that of also what you get with it. Get this screw for the pickup. Got some wire, some more wire. Another toggle switch. Then we got our battery connector right here, which I'm thinking we're going to put this in the Stratocaster pickup cavity. A few more leads of wire. The other springs and stuff for the pickup, and then we have our controller board right here that goes into the guitar right there. That's our board. So I'm pretty sure for the smaller board I'm going to want to probably put this in here, right over where this is, because that's going to be kind of the correct spot for that. And that's kind of where I want my sustainer to be, just in case I want to turn it off really quick or really slow or really quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this board here and we're going to pull that out. Then this is all going to get pushed kind of down and out of the way so I can focus on soldering onto this board right here, assuming I can get enough room, which it looks like it's going to work perfectly. Actually, this looks like this is going to fit just fine. As we can see, just got to push that lead over a little more. This is the kind of fine work that I have to do on this guitar because it's just, there's so much stuff crammed in here in such a small area. And a lot of it is, you know, really delicate, fine work. So I'm going to put this right here next to where the sustainer is. And we take that, and then we put this around it. On this Kramer, I don't have holes to hold stuff straight. This is going to get kind of held straight by what's inside the guitar anyway. So it's not that important because this is just such a close connection. You're getting to watch me sidewalk engineer this thing while I go, you know. So there we go. We got our toggle switch for our Sustainiac already installed. Oh, I'm going to scoot all that over. That's probably fine. All right. Yes. And there we go. We just got to ever so carefully kind of manipulate this so that it fits in place like it's supposed to. And there we go. We have our toggle switch there for Sustainiac on off. Now the next switch, we're going to have to do some more engineering here. The next switch, I got to decide how much room I've got here, and it looks like I have just enough room right here to fit the second switch somewhere in that region for that. Or I can fit it up over here in that cluster there and make this really tight. But I'm thinking probably want to put this somewhere over here possibly, or down here. That might even be even better. Just put that one down by the tone control. See how much room we have down there? Nah, we don't really have the room for it there, but we do have some room next to it right here, but that's not big enough. Yeah, you're watching what engineering the Kramer is like. So, yeah, I'm thinking we're gonna maybe cram the body up in there somewhere. Yeah, I'm thinking right there next to the pickup right there might be a good spot for it. This is very cramped, just so you know. This is a very, very cramped setup and very, very, very complicated setup. Alright, so we're probably going to want to drill about there. That switch. That's for our other switch that's going to kind of control the phase. So in order to do that, I need to put my speed knob back on. So right here we're going to turn it all the way up to 10, line up with that like I usually do. There we go. That looks really good actually. And then I'm thinking probably right in here somewhere could maybe fit that second switch. Maybe right there. I'm thinking right here, right where the pickup route goes through is going to be the best spot. And we're just going to have to do it there. I mean, there's literally almost no other option on this guitar at this point. There's so much going on inside the Kramer that, you know, this guitar, this is literally the Cadillac of electronics here. So we're going to Christmas tree bit it in carefully. Thinking if we hang it right about here, like right at the edge of that, we will probably be fine. So we'll go ahead and kind of sit in line with the pickguard screw there, right in the middle. Right about here, I'm thinking. Whoa! Almost got too much. Yeah, my Christmas tree bit's a little dull. Actually, having a little extra might be perfect because that might give us the room we need to manipulate this. Yeah. So we'll put that in there like that. Yeah, that's perfect. And then we'll fit it down there, I think like this actually, because that might be better. And then we can kind of hold on to it while we install it. Because this is just when you thought the Kramer couldn't get any more complex, and then I come along and put a sustainer system in it. Okay, so now we're going to put this in here like that. That kind of goes, that's perfect, because then I can kind of flick it with it when I'm right by with my volume knob. See, there's more thought that goes into the design on this guitar than people realize, and part of the reason why it's so tight is because I'm focused on usability. I want it to be usable. And in order to make it usable, you have to kind of think about where parts are going to go and whatnot. So, right here we got our pickup cavity. And now we're going to put that there. This is probably one of the tightest wiring jobs I've ever done. And the next thing I'm going to have to do is test fit my battery holder in place, because we want that. And so there we go. We have our two switches. We have that one right there for turning the sustaining on and off, and that's our harmonic and fundamental mode switch for it. And as you can see, when we flip it back up, this is what it's going to look like when it's installed. It's going to be pretty awesome, as you can see. Every option under the sun. Yeah, this thing's pretty rad. Anyway, I'm going to go run some wire down here, and we're gonna take these wires, set these off to the side, and then we're gonna find the battery holder I just got. This piece right here. This is where our 9-volt battery goes. And what I need to do is I need to source myself a nice 9-volt battery.
which I have one in my VOM right now. I'll probably just go to the store and get a new one later, but right now, yeah, there's a lot that goes in. This is probably one of the most complex guitars to do. That's another reason why I'm doing this one first. I mean, compared to everything else that I've worked on, this guitar really takes the cake as far as complexity. There's so much going on. A lot of guys wouldn't even attempt this, or they'd charge you like $3,000 just to do this job. And here I am doing it myself at home for quite a fraction of the cost. I need to find a screwdriver. I can just use my Gerber for it. I think that'll be best. I need to get that cup holder mounted up here because I'm doing so much stuff now. I know this is probably not the greatest video I've ever done as far as quality, but here, that's my screwdriver. So right here we're gonna take these guys out, take this out, and then we're gonna see if this is wide enough for a 9-volt or not. If it's not, we might actually slip it into the bridge pickup cavity, possibly, or we might slip it into the main cavity, I guess. So, here we go. So I've got this right here. We're just going to use this to test fit a 9-volt in the pickup route, in the control route for the, or in the output jack route. See if we can maybe fit it in there, see if it'll fit. And if it doesn't fit, then what do we do, you know? Oh yeah, got it. So, give me just a moment here. So, after surveying the Stratocaster output jack cavity, I kind of found that a 9-volt battery is a little too big to fit in there. So we're going to put that in here, and I think we might make a custom plastic sleeve for it. Right now I'm going to test my battery's voltage with the VOM, a 20-volt scale. Let's put these on here, black, red. So we got 7.01, so it's low, but it'll work for right now. I'm going to probably stop by the store and put a new one in. Okay, so now we're going to flip this back over after we get this back out. And then we're going to start installing all the other shit in here that needs to go in here for the sustainer system. So as you can see, this is pretty jammed full of stuff. What we're going to do here is we're going to get a little creative with a few things. Like, I'm thinking we're going to leave this board inside this case. Yeah. So going over our diagram, we're going to want to flip this over a little bit so we can see a little better before we even start thinking about wiring in that sustainer pickup. Alright, so right here we've got all this kind of cattywampusized right here. I'll probably add other tape later, but right now we're going to kind of focus on this part of it. So, first things first. I'm going to probably want to put this in here. And we're following the diagram, so these top two pins here on this are going to, like, these two right here are where my battery is going to connect at. And I'm just going to kind of poke them through here. We're going to kind of work on this in close quarters here.
So we've got the red one placed, and then we've got to get the black one placed. So right now we're getting the wires kind of placed in place. So you can see now we've got I got the 9-volt adapter placed onto there. So right now I'm gonna kind of solder those in. Okay, so now we have that soldered in. I'm gonna have to take that out to actually wire it in, I think. Take that switch out to wire it in because I got so much tight space to wire it in at that I'm gonna have to just take it out for now and reinstall it later. Complicated TB-60 sustainer setup I ever did.
So now where we're at on this, we've got the controller board soldered in to the power supply switch, which is right over there, which is what turns the sustainer on and on. Now we're going to take these two wires here and we're going to wire them into the controller board here, into the harmonic / fundamental mode board. So in order for me to get to those, I gotta go through here. And then once those are done, we're gonna hook into the driver here for harmonic and fundamental mode. And just like the last one, we may have to just take it out. I don't know. We'll see here. I'm gonna kind of put these under here. This is why I hardly ever make YouTube videos, because it's so freaking difficult to shoot anything, you know? But hey, this is something worthwhile, worth sharing, so we're gonna kind of, had it. Thankfully, this will be probably one of the last times we're going to open this guitar up. All right, here we go. This is like open heart surgery on a guitar. Anyway, can I get this in here? There you go. Pliers, because I gotta make this, I want all my solder joints in here to be tight. And so
here we go. So now the black wire to install. So now we gotta put that black wire in there. Yeah, this is the kind of surgery level precision I have to have when working on this specific guitar because it's just so complicated inside. And yes, I designed this when I was 17. I'm probably the only person that would have stuck with it. I think most people would have dumped this and just put a regular Strat wiring setup in it or restored it. Not me. I'm a limit pusher. I like to see what we can do with this thing after 20 years or 30 years or whatever. Sometimes I use things like this to prop up my wiring doodads. There we go. Also being very careful not to get any cold solder joints in here. Okay, so now here's where that's gonna go. So now, we gotta put these guys right next to here. So we've got minus, so we've got the plus C signal going right here next to that. So we're about halfway done. So that switch goes to these outer two plugs right over here. That switch goes to these outer two plugs. So I'm going to kind of show you a little bit about the diagram here real quick. So where's a good pointing device that I can use? So these two here, one goes to ground and one goes to your bridge pickup wire. That's the last piece we're going to do. This is the toggle switch that turns it on and off. That's the first thing we wired. Two wires go to our battery terminals here. The other two go to our battery. And then these last two here go all the way over to this switch, which the driver wires into. That's basically a phase inverter, and what it does is when you flick the switch, it switches the phase of the driver, which causes it to sustain in fundamental or harmonic mode, depending. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to finish soldering in all the base level wires here. So right now we've got that, and I'm getting a cool idea on how I'm going to wire in my toggle switch control for this thing for getting an idea for how I'm going to wire in the regular toggle switch for this, and my idea is this. I'm going to, whoa. Well, we'll make sure that's, just had the insulation go inside the freaking hole, so make sure solder bridge all that together. There we go. Now last is our black wire that goes to that. You can buy these on Reverb. They're about 75 bucks. They're actually, I'm thinking of engineering this like a smart person. There we go. Because I'm also going to want my gain pot accessible, and I was thinking what we might do is attach this to the bottom of the bridge humbucker, possibly, and then have a hole in the back of the guitar that might let it actually, you know, stick through or something. Either do it that way or we do it another way where I just have it, you know, wired in. Anywho, now we're going to wire in the driver to that control. I'm just going to take the vibrato bar off for right now. So on here, on this driver, we have 4 wires. And it says the 2 that should be joined together for each side are the red and green and the black and white. Red and green go to the terminal marked red, and then the black and white go to the terminal marked the other name. So here's how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to probably strip this back even further because I'm going to want to just ground that base plate thing to ground, since it only just says to put those 2 in for the driver. So that's what we're going to do, because this middle bit here is actually our so we're going to take these strands and we're going to set them up separate, and then we're going to have 2 here and 2 here. And I'm just going to leave this over here where I can maybe connect it to the lead there. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take our 4 leads, I'm going to prep those, and I'm just going to take that shielding lead and flip that back. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to put our black and white ones in first, I think, because those are the 2 that go in there first. And to get those, you gotta nip off the ends like this. So you gotta nip off an end here. So we got the white, and then we got the black, and then we got the white, and these 2 are going to go together like that. And this, I think we might take the switch out, because I think it's going to be a lot easier to wire the drivers in, wire the driver in with our switch removed. It's just going to make it a whole lot easier, and it's going to make it a whole lot more simple for us right now. You know, I predetermine where my switches are going to go, but it isn't unusual for me on a project, especially one of this size, to remove things, you know, 2 or 3 times a session, because I'm trying to get everything wired in exactly the way I want it. So we're going to kind of move that over. You got to be careful when you're unscrewing these toggle switches too, because they're just a little too, you know, delicate. So here we go. We're going to pull our toggle out. I'm going to flip this out. And then we're going to put these 2 into here. And I've got another way of doing this, but right now I'm going to pull this up close. And I'm going to grab some more solder, and we're going to solder that in. We'll grab some more solder, and then we're going to solder the negative leads for our drivers in. There's actually a dual driver in this, I believe. That's what it looks like to me, at least. Yep. So we got that part soldered in. And then we just gotta do these two. I'm showing you different ways of stripping leads, all the way from the redneck method I usually use, all the way, which involves twisting them with your fingers after biting them off with your mouth, because I have a weird gender gap up front that works perfectly as a trick with these is to get them just right. And then you gotta get it right in there. This is gonna be probably the hardest one to get in there. Just saying. You gotta twist them up in there really good. And then you gotta stick them up in the hole. You have to get them just right or they don't go through. And then usually for those I'll tilt them off to the side a little bit. Okay. And then that's going to make sure that that's soldered in really good. And then we'll pull this out. I'm going to pull my Here we go. As shaky as that was, it didn't turn out to be a cold solder joint. That's kind of impressive, considering. Now, this already wired in here. I'm going to probably just stick this down here. I'm probably just going to stick that out there and then stick this back through its hole like that. And then we're going to put the switch back in, and then pretty much everything's already wired. Oh shoot, might have to do something with that. Maybe put a longer screw on it, I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna try to get this just a little more, I think. Well, we'll deal with that later. Anyway, right now I got to put this back in to its spot. So then that's in there. Our other toggle switch. Get these off of here. There we go. We have our mixed mode toggle there. And we just put that on it. We put that on it right there. We put those in there. And then we gotta just wire it in. And then we just gotta wire the last two wires, which go into our bridge pickup into ground. It's just really hard getting this on here right now. to tighten that up really good. There we go. Now, with this down here, let me see if I have 2 more wires. I don't think they sent the other 2, now that I think about it, but that's totally fine. We got this stuff to use. Now, before I'm going to finish installing this, I'm going to make some decisions. Now that we've got the driver wired in, I'm going to try to pull this over here. Maybe even just wrap that around there. Because it doesn't say anything about that, and that's just probably not important. Anyway, for the driver part of it, I just have 2 more leads to wire in, one that goes to ground and one that goes to the bridge pickup. So for ground, we're going to use this stuff, this ancient green wire. And then for the bridge pickup, we're going to use the yellow wire for it. We're just going to kind of set up a little soldering station here. To get these wired in. So we're going to talk about this one a little bit. All right. And now, before we decide where we're going to wire the rest of this in, we need to make some decisions. So, I was thinking, for this part of it, we could just run it under here. I was thinking, maybe we could do this. I'm gonna cut these off. I've just been thinking, why don't we use these bags and stick like the 9 volts and all that in those? That way then, you know, when we have them wired in, that way then when all the circuits wired in, we can just go ahead and use those instead. So now I'm gonna strip my wires. I got 2 here. I got the gold. This is my hot lead. And this is my ground lead right here. And that just popped out of its thing again. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and we're going to solder it in right here. So we have some room to do some stuff. We just had some other stuff pop out. That's fine. Now, I'm going to go over here and solder in our hot lead right about here. the worst workbench in the world, honestly. There we go. So now that's in there. Now I'm going to address a couple other little things that need to be addressed. Let's see here. I'm going to take this little blue lead from here, from on this. Oh, I'm going to solder that into here. So we're going to eliminate a problem that I was having earlier with this particular guitar when I was wired it and updated it the last time. Now our coil split is there. Now we just got to make some decisions here. Where are we going to put this where we can, you know, adjust it? So there's a few ideas here. I'm thinking what I might do is I might sit this in its thing here. We're going to see what the range of customization is. So I'm going to stick it right about in the middle for right now. And then we'll just put this in its little bag and slip it up in here. That's the way I was thinking we would do this. That way then we can just go ahead and cover it with a bag and then it doesn't short out on anything. And that's a good way to go because then, you know, it's also waterproofed. My guitars do get exposed to wetness and shit because I play like outdoor festivals and stuff periodically, and that doesn't always fare well for them, you know. I've played a few pretty wild gigs where things got wet and so forth. And we can always just pull the bag up out the side, which was one of my ideas, was that I could just lift the pick guard on one side and just pull everything out from there. So that's how we're going to do this, is we're going to jam it back into its little bag. And then, you know, needed be, and kind of, there you go, kind of like that. And just sort of pack it in there like that, possibly, or because there's plenty of room in the cavity for that shit. we go. And then I've got to put some kind of screw in there that's gonna fit because that one came out. We'll deal with that later because I might end up drilling these holes bigger and putting a different thing in. So right now we're gonna kind of reinstall it all, and you know, we put the set screw about halfway. I think that's gonna be more than adequate enough for the job with this machine. We're gonna kind of pull this back in like that. Now I need to pull my entire bridge off, which is going to be kind of a pain, but it has to be done. I mean, it's going to be the only way we're going to get this thing installed, I think, is pulling that Floyd Rose out. So I'm going to undo these at the headstock. Then we're going to pull this off like this, assuming we can get it up and out enough. We need to get it up. We're going to have to loosen these strings up at the headstock quite a bit. These are old strings, so I'm probably expecting they're going to be a bit of a pain this go around. Here we go. Now I'm just going to pull that Floyd Rose, keep that taut over there as much as I can. And then we're gonna take this, and then I'm gonna do my next thing, which is I'm going to put some electrical tape around all the connectors in here. Use some glue, I think, since I can't find my red. Ooh, the last time I worked on this guitar, it was way back when I lived in another place. So right now we're going to take this, we're going to wrap these around here like that, and then pull those taut. Here we go. And then we're going to take this right here, a driver, and we're going to kind of do the same thing right here, I think. And that should give us enough to, enough support to actually, you know, bundle all this up well. Here we go. So there we are. We'll even hook that little extra length around the bridge pickup wire, the bridge pickup spring, screw. There we go. Now I'm going to kind of sit this out from the side. Like that. This will probably, I'll just end up leaving it in there without a spring on that side. Here we go. And now we'll just fit all this in here, if we can even get it to fit. Oh my God, this is going to be tight. Okay, so what I see going on right now is we have the board all the way down in the bottom of the cavity, and that switch right here. How do I get past this? What's that hitting? Oh, there's a wire there. That's what's going on. Yeah, we got to guide all our wires under, not around. There we go. And then that should fit like that for right now. And then when it comes time to put the springs in, you know, we'll worry about that. But right now I'm gonna just push all this down here. We're gonna put that in there. Might even do a little more drilling there to get that a little wider, possibly. That way then I can use the original 2 screws I wanted to use, which are these galvanized guys over here. Got 2 of them. Yeah, we might just do that. That'll be after the fact though, because this is all secured here and I kind of did it this way for a reason. So now we're going to put the Floyd Rose back in. That's going to go like this. And we're going to sink it back down. We're going to stake everything else back into place. including the bridge humbucker. Seriously, this is gonna have to get screwed in somehow. It's gonna have to get screwed in somehow. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff here to screw down now. But this looks like this is gonna fit great, so that's good. Yeah, those are all flush fit screws. And then this is gonna go in here like that. This is getting pushed down, seriously. Okay, we got that right here. Right. And I'm keeping the battery out the top for just right now. I mean, so we're not even going to screw those three in over there. We're just going to put these guys in up here. I just want the pick guard secured enough that I can, you know, test it and see if the strings are going to vibrate and make sure the circuit works before we try and jam my battery pack down in there.
So here we are, creeping
With
net
its little
test
plastic
labs.
bag.
Well, as you can see, we've got this.
And we're going to worry about
iSUSTAINER
fine adjustments and everything else after the
installed
fact as well,
here.
because that's just the way I do this stuff.
And as you can see, we got set up with the neck pickup. Now in standard position, you don't want to turn this switch right here controls
Here
on
we
off
are.
for the sustainer. This switch right
Control
here
locality.
does fundamental and harmonic
I'm going to put
modes.
my springs
This
in.
is your bridge pickup switch.
I have two
On a
back
3-switch
here.
guitar like this, you're gonna have to be
one
mindful,
there.
at least until I come up with a
And
design
we
for it,
have
because I have an
one
idea how to
over here. We're
kind
probably
of
going to give her a
create
full
sort of a
setup
blower switch
afterward
effect,
too,
so then
just
if you go to go
because
turn the Sustainiac on, it
that's what this guitar is going to need.
disables the controls and goes straight to the
Now,
bridge pickup.
just put this up
So,
here.
I'm going to be developing something
Screw
like
that
that on
thing
this
in.
guitar. It doesn't matter because it's my old number
bar,
one
so
from
we're gonna
like high
push that
school,
forward.
and I do use it
And then we'll
still, but I'm
clamp that
mindful
in
enough not to use
place.
the Sustainiac with other stuff. Does work with the
I'm
middle
gonna pause
pickup and clean
we'll
though.
get back to it after I put it back together and get everything going.
Here it's got a little bit of that distortion in the background. And we have that also works with single coils. Anyway, we're going to kind of keep all these pickups off here. I'm just going to be on the bridge pickup, so I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to turn this on. This is like the initial test with some tweakery. We're going through my Bugera 333XL amp. So here it is with it off, long decay. The bridge pickup is a Duncan Performer detonator humbucker. And if we flip the Sustainiac on, and typically the more distortion you have, the better it is. So here we are on the lead channel. And if I turn it off, I can use my neck pickup. And then turn it back on for lead. Now let's test out those modes. So here's with the switch back. Note the switch forward.